Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for inviting us, our institute, to take this presentation on the experience coming from the decommissioning activity in Italy. I belong to a regulator, an organization involved in the regulation and supervision of the activities connected to decommissioning, and I think according to this nature it's probably the case to emphasize one that I consider an ethical component of the decommissioning. And what came to my mind is the Indian proverb that say we do not inherit earth from our parents, but rented it from our children. It's the case that this ethical component of this activity that is strictly connected to the waste management activity is also embodied in some ways in the IEA standards, in safety fundamentals, and also in decommissioning, that the principle of protection of present and future generation. This is a performing decommissioning in a proper way is, to some extent, a way of not transferring to the future generation the burden of this activity and the waste management as a whole. Coming back to the Italian experience, historical background says that in the past in Italy, 4 nuclear power plants were commissioned and operated. And 1 gas graphite, 1 BWR, 1 PWR, and another BWR that's the youngest, the Corso MPP. And some other facilities connected to the fuel cycle. And when we talk about decommissioning, we talk about decommissioning of nuclear power plants, but also some facilities connected to the fuel cycle. This is the picture of the Garigliano nuclear power plant before entering into operation in 1962. So we see the ball of the reactor, and they recognize the time, but from the type of the cars. And in these 50 years, there have been a lot of changes, improvements, also in safety and in the perception of safety. And but you know that in '87, all nuclear installations were shut down in Italy as a result of a referendum. A safe conservation strategy was initially adopted. This safe conservation strategy lasted up to 2000, when a single-step decommissioning process was decided. And a lot of activities have been done before addressing the dismantling of the nuclear island. The Italian legislation defined the decommissioning of all the technical and management planned actions to be implemented in the nuclear installation after the end of its operation, in compliance with safety requirements that will assure the protection of workers, people, and environment from radiation risk, until the final dismantling or the unconditional release of the site. So you can perform decommissioning not only by dismantling, but also by decontamination and releasing in a conditional manner the buildings that are located in the site itself. These are the main nuclear installations to be decommissioning in Italy. The blue ones are the nuclear power plants. The green ones are the research facilities, also connected, as I said, to the fuel cycle. There are also the installation of the Joint Research Center of ISPRA, that about which there was a short presentation before by Mr. Perani. And so from that picture we can say that Italy is probably the most nuclear country among the non-nuclear countries. So a lot of work on decommissioning to be done, starting from '87. What is the adopted strategy? The adopted strategy is that to reach the so-called green field with the unconditional release of the site, passing through an intermediate phase. That's the brown field. The main reason for that is that there is not at present in Italy a national repository for the disposal of low-level waste or for the interim storage of high-level waste. And this decommissioning strategy has breakdown according to all these different steps, and that is strictly. These steps are strictly connected with the waste management, as it was highlighted before, because there is a large amount of waste coming from legacy waste, coming from the past activities, but the other waste to be managed during the decommissioning is the waste that comes from the dismantling. The total amount that is estimated for the Italian cases is 90,000 cubic meter of waste. A large part, more or less half, can come from the dismantling activity. And the conditioning of the waste is one of the key issues. Waste cannot be managed in the same manner without being properly conditioned and put in a shape of being safely transported, stored, and disposed of at the end. How is the process organized? From the implementation side, there is a public company, the Sogin, whose primary mission is the safe management of spent fuel and radioactive waste, but also the commissioning, siting, construction, and operation of the National Waste Repository. It's a state company under the aegis of the Ministry of Economy and Finance. And it has to be said that the funding is ensured through the funds collected during the operation of the nuclear power plants in the past, but now from a levy coming from the electricity price, and the financial control is performed by a specific authority for energy and gas. Also, other important decommissioning activities, as I said, are planned in the EU Joint Research Center. Let's move to the legislative and regulatory framework that stems from the 60s, and I would like to highlight that this regulatory framework is mainly based on the Nuclear Act that is step by step being updated according to following the transposal of the European Union directly. And currently the legislative framework is made up from the Ministry of Economic Development as a licensing authority, other ministries that are involved in the licensing process for the commissioning, but an independent competent regulatory authority that is now the National Center for Nuclear Safety and Radiation Protection of ISPRA, that is the Institute for Environmental Protection and Research. So we have seen the implementation side, the regulatory side. From the regulatory side, we have to say that a new body, the Inspectorate for Nuclear Safety and Radiation Protection, is established by law. This establishment process is not being completed. In the meantime, ISPRA is continuing to perform the regulatory function, but there is a key challenge, has been also highlighted in a IRS mission taken by IEA last November. There is a need to increase the human resources of the competent regulatory authority, also in relation to the planned decommissioning program, mainly to assure the turnover of the people and to assure the preservation of the regulatory competencies. Let's come now to some key elements of the key radiological hazard on the environment. How decommissioning is risky? First of all, one point is the presence of the irradiated fuel. Then there is contaminated activated material of structure, systems, component, and radioactive waste, as we said, to be treated and conditioned. During normal condition of the installation, the impact, potential pathways of impact with the environment comes from the authorized liquid and gases discharge that have to respect some limits, and also the clearance of materials can leave the installation. In the accident condition, you can have some events during the dismantling waste management activities. In Italy, we apply this criteria, regulatory criteria that are 10 microsievert below radiological concern criteria for the normal conduct of the decommissioning operation, and 1 millisievert per event in the case of an accident situation. These are basically the elements that guide the regulatory approach during the decommissioning. That is obviously the preservation on high level of safety in the sites, perform in due time the waste conditioning of waste management, and perform any activity in compliance with the radiation protection objective. Last but not least, produce the waste adequately conditioned, so as I said, suitable for storage, transport, and disposal. All according to a graded approach principle, because takes into account the radiological hazard is obviously below the one of the operational phase of the installation. This is a distribution, if you like, qualitative distribution of the radiological hazard during the implementation of the decommissioning strategy. You have decommissioning preliminary activities, dismantling operation. The radiological risk reduces along the time with some increase according to the operations that are performed on the sites. And there are different stages that are going to be implemented in Italy. First of all, there are activities aimed at improving the safety condition, removing spent fuel from pools, treat the radioactive waste, remove structures, but also activities facilitated decommissioning operation, that is dismantling parts not contaminated or low contamination level, refurbish existing system that would allow to perform the decommissioning operation, but also construct some radioactive waste management facilities on the site. There are some pictures of the activity related to the transfer of the spent fuel for reprocessing. The waste will come back at the end. It will have to be stored for long term in wait for disposal. These are examples of new storage facilities for radioactive waste built for the purpose of hosting the waste resulting from the decommissioning on the site. So to perform decommissioning, you don't have only to dismantle, but in some cases you have also to construct. That is an important aspect, because you have to manage, as was said before, the flow of waste in some way, in a safe manner. These are examples of remediations of buried low-level waste that were buried in the past in trenches. Also, in this case, in the experimental facilities, and as a second stage, we go into decontamination, demolition of building, dismantling of the nuclear island, completion of waste processing, before arriving to the final and third stage. That will take time, obviously. These are examples of what has been done in terms of dismantling in this also nuclear power plant in the north of Italy, on the Latina, the dismantling of the turbine building. And this is an interesting exercise, the dismantling of a chimney in order to release and all the resulting material unconditionally. The chimney of a BWR is contaminated inside, so there is a process, first of all, of scarification internally to remove the contamination. And this is a project that is expected to be completed in the second part of this year with the dismantling of the also some construction of management facilities for waste, high-level waste that have to be conditioned on the site. These are the waste coming from the first stream of reprocessing in an experimental facility for reprocessing. And this is an example of decommissioning in done, already completed, in a fuel fabrication facility. One interesting consideration, you have seen the picture of the bowl of the Garigliano nuclear power plant before, and the current strategy calls for the preservation of the bowl as an architectural piece of industrial architecture. In the environmental impact assessment authorization, it is requested for the operator and the implementer to maintain the bowl with the reactor containment without dismantling it, but just decontaminating it. This is a quite important challenge also in order to preserve it. Then I have some slides on the decommissioning licensing process. I will go, for the sake of timing, go through. I will leave for the audience in any case, but I just highlight some few things before approaching the conclusion. The licensing process is based in a specific authorization and an environmental impact assessment evaluation. There are obviously some key aspects that may highlight in the process. There is an adoption of the WERA safety reference level, as mentioned also before my colleagues from Sweden for that. And there is an articulation of a project and plans of operation to be approved by the regulator during the implementation of the commissioning, at different steps of verification. I would like highlight one important one, that is that, for example, about dedicated specification that regulate the effluent discharge and environmental monitoring, but anyone can have a look what is the basis for the authorization of a decommissioning. A few words at the end about the elements that allows to complete the circle of the commissioning, that is the national repositories, because it really allows the unconditional release of the nuclear sites. The strategy in Italy is to realize a near-surface disposal facility for low and intermediate level waste, and a long-term storage facility for intermediate high level waste. This is the siting process. It's in some way ongoing. As I said, the role is assigned to Sogin as a company to realize that, and main site requirements of the disposal facility and this being set up, and there is a technical guide on siting criteria for near surface disposal facility issued by our institute in 2014. On the basis of this guide, a proposal of a national charge of potentially eligible areas for the siting has been proposed by the implementer and revised by us, and this is the flow chart for the siting process, and the publication and this national chart of potentially suitable areas is expected in this year, taking after the enactment of a national program that following the ongoing environmental impact assessment. Last, and then I conclude, the transparency ends on the authorization decrees request to implement specific information programs to the implementer. Some public hearings with the participation of implementer and competent regulatory authority are organized on a periodic basis at the local side for local stakeholders, and then extending view of web-based information. And according to this program, specific web-based portals have been developed by the authority. But this is a request in the license itself. Key challenges, just to summarize: as a complete deciding process of national repository, ensure continuity to dismantling waste management in many different sites, conditioning of legacy waste is clearly a priority, and as I said, increase the human resources of the competent regulatory authority to assure the oversight in the longer term on these activities. Thank you very much.